that's that's how you get a goat. You go on Craigslist and you adopt them when they're 2 months old, or maybe there's other ways too. That has been basically how I've acquired my goats. And Skylar was great, and he was a sensitive little boy, and Helen was pretty brutal to him and did not let him in easily. But after a while, they became friends, and we moved out onto someone's property who invited us out there, and I set up a teepee, and we were kind of living sometimes in the teepee on this land, and then other times we'd go into town, and that was working for a while. But about a couple months into the stay and doing the teepee thing, one day Helen died. She was, I believe, crushed by a car, not on the road, but off the road on the property. Complete accident. Not, still never, not, can't be 100% sure about that sort of thing, but Helen died. So then I only had Skylar, and I knew that it was so good for these goats to have friends. And so I contacted the farm where Helen came from and said, and I had known about Princess and had met Princess, and she was a cool doe doeling who they were keeping. And I said, hey, you know, Helen died. They were very understanding and sympathetic. And I said, would it be okay if for the time being I could have Princess to be a friend of Skylar? To me, it just, I don't know, it made sense. I wasn't ready to just go and try to adopt another goat, but I thought the sooner I could get a friend, the better. And so Princess came in, and we were still kind of floating around between going into town and living out in the teepee. And just like when I brought Skylar in and Helen was bossy and pushed him around, Skylar would push Princess around a lot. But we made it work, and that was summer into fall, and fall's rolling around, and I'm still hanging out with Princess and Skylar. And at some point, it just felt right to me. I was, for some reason, wanting a dog. And that's when I was looking at livestock guardian dogs, because it made sense that, hey, if I'm going to be getting into goats and continue to have interest in goats, then having a livestock guardian dog would be the right dog to get, not some other breed like a lab or something. I wanted a dog who would stay out, be able to protect me and my goats. So there's Franny over there, and we'll have to get some up-close shots for sure later, but I adopted Franny from a very similar place, a similar part of Iowa as Skylar, but a different farm. But I'll tell you, not too far away, just coincidentally. So that was fall of 2018, and I had thought about trying to stay in my teepee over winter, but at some point I asked my grandparents what I could, if I could come out to their property up in Minnesota here, where I had visited many times, and I knew they had space near their sort of cabin barn thing, and I knew that could be a good space for my goats to be. And we moved up early mid-December, and the three of us, the two goats and the dog, so I should say the four of us, and we made it through winter. And I didn't have a job, and it was pretty nice. It was sometimes a little difficult to stay busy, but someone from Ames came to visit me, and then shortly after that we got into a relationship, and so I had company, human company, and I had my animal company, and things were going well. And I started running out of money at the end of winter, and after a conversation with my father, decided that the best thing would be to get a job if I'm going to stay in this area. So I was able to find a job after not too long of searching. A little over a year ago now, I started working. And that didn't change things too much, and it actually allowed for some good things, because at the time I had been keeping the goats in that shed that was built, and didn't have really money to do anything else. And once I started working, I was able to get some money and got a birthday present of an electric fence, and was able to start doing better for the goats by rotating them around. And it's a balance, though, because then I'm gone for the majority of the daytime and not able to spend that with them and go on free hikes or whatever you might want to call it. But we made things work, and shortly after I got that electric fence, almost exactly a year ago now, I was thinking, I was still under the impression that I may have to give back Princess. That's how I had left it with the family. So I knew I didn't want to have to give her back and then have Skylar be on his own for really any period of time, because it's what I've experienced and learned is that is just terribly anxious for any goat to be on their own. They really do not do well on their own. It really makes them nervous. If you can at least get them one companion, whether it be a dog or a freaking mule, whatever, they need some company. And so I looked on Craigslist, and it didn't take long to find an advertisement for some Alpines not too far away, and that's when I adopted Cupid. And so I continued working, and basically fast forward 1 year, various things, figuring out shelters and figuring out, I'm pointing to this shelter first, and more electric fencing, figuring out what kind of fencing would work for my goats. I had been advised by some people who were running goats out as a sort of land restoration, running goats to clean up overcrowded woodland and that sort of thing. They were using, I don't even have it out right now, but they were using basically the shortest Premier 1 electric fencing available. And my goats jumped that right away, and basically right away, I'd say after we maybe tried it out for a couple days, they learned the fence would shock them, but once they learned that they easily had the ability to jump that fence, then it was game over. So I think that was a 3-foot fence, 36-incher. Then I went for the 4-foot fence, which is what Franny's behind now, and I'm gonna get out and go over there actually, so you can see that better.